Hi, today we're celebrating 20 years of QNAP. So we were founded in 2004 with a vision to revolutionize data storage. We've been at the forefront of NAS innovation for the past 2 decades. We've even branched out into networking products and cloud solutions. So to celebrate our 20th anniversary, we're bringing you 20 of our favorite features in our product lineup. First, we'll move on to a little about us. So, as I said, founded in 2004, we have over 1,300 employees around the world. Over 600 of those are R&D engineers, so very engineering-heavy company, always trying to bring innovation. Our headquarters are in Taipei in Taiwan, and the main business is split up into 3 units. We've got storage, which would include everything from NAS, DAS, so network-attached storage, direct-attached storage. We have a networking division, which is switches, routers, Wi-Fi, things like that. And we've also got a smart video division for our surveillance solutions, always innovating there, trying to bring AI and other features to make the video solution even smarter than it already is. So we'll move straight into the first of sort of our favorite features or functions of a QNAP, which is our high-speed connectivity. We've standardized on 2.5 gig being the minimum for the past couple of years. So there are still a couple of units that were launched before we did this. So you might still find a couple on the 1 gig if you go looking for them on the product listing that we've got on our website. But we haven't launched anything new unless it's got 2.5 gig for the past couple of years now. Most of our high-end SMB to enterprise units would have at least 10 gig built into them, so 1 to 2 ports. It may be SFP+, it may be 10 base T, the copper variety. And we're starting to put 25 gig built in on a lot of our all-flash solutions as well. So in some cases it's 2 ports, some cases it's 4 ports. All the units at the top end now have options for 100 gig Ethernet. To go with the sort of faster connectivity, 25 gig and 100 gig, we also have a line of switches which do 10 gig, 25 gig, 100 gig. We've even got quite a few with the 2.5 gig connectivity and quite a mix of standards as well. So if you're in the process of upgrading your network to some having 2.5, some things being 10 gig, we've got switches that'll cover most solutions for you there as well. Moving on to the second one, which is multiple RAID options. So here I've listed every RAID option possible, depending on the QNAP that you've got. So the ones listed there are specific to 8 bays and larger with QUTS Hero. QTS can basically do everything except triple parity and triple mirror, but it can do the rest of them. The amount of bays does denote which RAID modes you can do. So, for example, you can't do a RAID 6 with just 2 drive bays. So, for example, on a smaller 2 bay, you might be able to do single, some call it JBOD, RAID 0 and RAID 1. But as you start moving up the range and getting more drive bays, you've got a lot of different RAID options. So, as I say, the RAID options do vary depending on which of our 2 operating systems you use. And how many bays it has. All the information's on the website if you want it to be specific to a specific unit you're interested in. We've also got backup and disaster recovery functions. So by most people's standards, a lot of NAS are used for backing up, performing disaster recovery functions. So at the forefront of that would be our hybrid backup sync 3 application. For those of you that have been around QNAP a long time would possibly remember the previous app to this, which was called Backup Station. Backup Station used to have a sort of companion app for doing cloud backups, so it was 2 separate applications. Hybrid Backup Sync came about because we put everything into the one app to make it easier, so the setup of the job was the same, but instead of it being Backup Station, which just had destinations of other NAS or, say, USB drives you attached to the NAS, and then if you wanted to do a cloud backup, you had to do the whole setup again, but do it in a cloud application. Now it's all in one application. You pick your destination, and we support a lot of different providers there as well. To go with our snapshot function, we do have snapshot replication and SnapSync, which can truly turn your snapshots into a backup and disaster recovery solution. So getting your snapshot data off the NAS that's taking the snapshots and sending them to another NAS. And we've also got Hyperdata Protector, which is our virtual backup tool. So this will allow you to back up things like VMware environments, Hyper-V environments. So you're able to put in the credentials for your hypervisor setup, and it will pull in all the information about your virtual environment and allow you to create backups of it. A companion app that's been released recently for Hyperdata Protector is our NetBack PC agent. So this is a Windows backup tool that allows you to backup data from your Windows machines and send it into the NAS. So it's sort of a central managed backup tool for your Windows machines. It's not for Mac. Mac has Time Machine already, so it's very much like Time Machine, but as Mac OS has that built in, NetBack PC agent just gives you a few more options than the built-in Windows backup would have. With Windows, it's much better than that built-in one. So we've got NetBack PC agent now as well. So moving on to the fourth feature, which is scalable storage capacity. Now, this could be many different things to many different people. So it could be maybe when you bought your NAS, you only part populated it. You left some drive bays free. It could be simply pushing in some extra drives, expanding your capacity. Maybe all your drive bays are full and you want to expand it a different way. If you've got a redundant RAID mode, you can replace all your drives from smaller ones to larger ones. So say 10 terabyte drives to 20 terabyte drives, one at a time, letting the RAID rebuild and growing it that way. But at the sort of higher end, we've got expansion enclosures. Now these start with USB attached devices, which basically give you another pool or another volume to work with, all the way up to our enterprise options, which are either SAS or SATA connected, which will allow you to even expand the existing storage pool in the NAS and have one seamless massive volume, even if some of the drives are not actually in the NAS itself. So it allows you to grow really big storage groups. So we can get to over a petabyte now doing that. If you want the 1 petabyte as a single volume, it will have to be QUTS Hero. QTS would be limited to 250 terabyte volumes. Back in the day when we launched 250 terabyte volumes, it felt like they were fairly unlimited back then. The storage sizes were much smaller with drives, but with drives getting to 24 terabyte drives and even bigger ones announced now, it's pretty easy to get to 250 terabytes these days. And of course, and most of our NAS now have hot swap drives. So I say most because some just have a different chassis design that means you have to turn the NAS off to be able to get to the drives, or maybe they have M.2 drives which are not hot swap. But most of our NAS do have hot swap capabilities on the drives as well. We also have multimedia server functionality, and a lot of people do use a QNAP NAS as the center of their multimedia hub. Now, whether that's using the built-in DLNA media server that's just in the control panel there for you to enable if you want to use that, or you want to go down a more feature-rich third-party solution like Plex. Plex is really good even with the free version. If you wanted to use some of the more advanced features with it, like hardware transcoding to use the GPUs, graphics cards, things like that to improve hardware transcoding, you do need a Plex pass for that. But a lot of our NAS do have built-in GPUs embedded on the CPU. If you wanted to go with something a bit more powerful, a lot of our NAS do support PCIe, so PCI Express GPUs added into one of the rear slots so that you can expand that capability even further. Remote access and file sharing. So we make this really easy using our MyQNAP cloud service. So it enables secure and remote access to your data. It comes with a free dynamic DNS function as well. So if you are with an ISP that changes your IP address periodically, the free dynamic DNS service will let you pick a name such as user.myqnapcloud.com, and that will update every 5 minutes to make sure it's on the right IP address depending what your ISP has given you. If you are using a solution where the ISP does not allow inbound connections, so a good example here would be something like Starlink. I believe it uses something called CGNAT, which sort of gives you a fake public IP address, so it's not a real one, so you can't come in on it to access your NAS. We can use our CloudLink tool, which is built into MyQNAP Cloud. It effectively does an outbound tunnel from your NAS to our cloud service, and we allow you to piggyback that to come back into your NAS. So your NAS is doing an outbound connection, and then we're using that to do an inbound connection. So all this functionality is completely free if you have a QNAP NAS, really easy to set up. It is off by default. All you've got to do is open up the MyQNAP Cloud application and turn the functionality on to however you like it. We've also got encryption and access controls. So the encryption options are vast on a QNAP. So really any scenario you can think of, we've got it. So whether that's using SEDs, which are self-encrypting drives, typically that's on SSDs these days. It allows you to use the hardware encryption directly on the drive itself. And you can also use volume and LUN encryption. So that's when creating your RAID, your big volume, you can set the encryption on everything that gets done inside that volume. Maybe you want it more segmented and you just want it on a specific shared folder. We've got those functionalities too. And in terms of access controls, we've got lots of things. One of the best features that I like, that I think is very underused, is called service binding. If your NAS has more than one LAN port, you can use service binding to restrict certain services, functions, apps to only use a certain LAN port. So if you have a NAS connected, so for example, we do a lot with schools where they might have two separate networks in a school. They might want, say, the surveillance functionality to be accessed by the office network, but not be on the student network. So what they can do is they can say, I only want the surveillance functionality or the web admin screens to only work on the office network. But LAN port 2 that's connected to where the students are, that doesn't need it over there, so you can disable that access from that LAN port, that network. So it's a really cool feature for you to set up different access controls on the NAS, as well as all the integration with things like Active Directory and users groups, things like that. We've got all of that built into every NAS that we do now. Cross-platform compatibility. So we're trying to make the NAS really work with anything. So the main NAS setup, the interface, the way you control it is all just done through a web page. So as long as you've got a web browser on your device, you're able to manage the QNAP, change the settings, configure anything that you want. Very easy to do. And we've got some specific apps for different platforms, so different applications have their own apps as well. So for example, our surveillance, we tried to make the application the same on everything. So if you're using it on Windows, Mac, Linux, it doesn't matter. It's the same application across all of them. It looks the same. If you know how to use it on one, you will know how to use it on all of them. It looks identical on them. So we're trying to work with really everything. So the two most popular mobile OSs, iOS and Android, we've got many different apps on that, whether it's managing your NAS, transferring files to and from your NAS, monitoring the surveillance on your NAS. We've got apps for really everything on them, and they're all free if you wanted to try those out as well. Our NAS are ideal for virtualization. Now, whether that's being a storage target for your virtualization, we do get certifications for VMware, Hyper-V, Veeam. We do also have dedicated plugins as well. So, for example, with VMware, there's quite a lot of plugins that we do there that allows you to even create storage on the NAS. So if you need a new volume for a virtual application that you're running in your VMware, you don't even have to log into the NAS web interface to create that new volume. You can do it directly from within vCenter. It's really handy to do that. And we've also got our Virtualization Station application, which allows you to create virtual machines directly on the NAS using its resources. So you can take some CPU power, some RAM, some storage. You can even pass through PCIe devices, USB devices through to that VM that you've created within the QNAP. So we can run virtual machines directly in the NAS using our Virtualization Station application as well. So we reached the halfway mark here with number 10, which is centralized management. So we do have a very intuitive web UI, so it's very easy to do all the management of your NAS from this web UI. And we also have a really cool tool called QFinder Pro, which is a tool for Windows and Macs. It allows you to find your NAS on the network. So it sends out a broadcast packet, goes and finds the QNAP, allows you to do things like set the IP address, do firmware updates, things like that, even without logging into the web user interface. So it's a really cool tool. Even has Wake on LAN features. So long as QFinder Pro has seen your QNAP before, it remembers it. So even if your QNAP is off, you can go and wake it up if you have one that supports Wake on LAN. So we can wake it up and it'll send a Wake on LAN packet to turn your NAS on for you from somewhere else in the network. So that's really useful. But everything's centralized in the web UI. If anybody does want to get a bit more advanced, we do have things like SSH. If you want to go command line, you can do that. It's off by default, but there's just a switch to turn it on in the control panel. if you want to go in that option as well. You can also turn on SSH access through the QFinder Pro application if you wish as well. We've got antivirus and malware protection options. So built right into the NAS, we do have, I think it's called ClamAV, which is an antivirus application, as well as malware remover that does periodic scans of your device to make sure that everything's good, everything's safe. If you wanted to take it a step up a notch, we do have an optional McAfee subscription available as well. So if you wanted to use McAfee antivirus, you can purchase a license for that and use that one instead. We've got cloud storage integration. So I've listed a few here, but by no means is that everybody. And we've this past year, we've launched our own MyQNAP cloud storage as well. So we've got multiple hosted data centers around the world. I think it's up to 16 now. So you can pick whichever one is closest to you. We give you a generous free amount. I believe it was 16 gig free. You don't even need a QNAP NAS to get the free cloud storage there. Integrates really great with the NAS functions, such as the Hybrid Backup Sync 3 application as a storage destination. And we don't charge you for taking data back out of it either. So it's really efficient at getting data back out. Costing's very competitive. So we do have our own MyQNAP cloud storage, which you can take a look at. I think you can go to software.qnap.com to go see the pricing on that for the different regions. But it's a really cool addition that we've added now as well. We touched on this already, but snapshots. So they're available in all QNAP NAS now. Over the years, I've seen it come to more and more units. Typically, the lower spec NAS were just not able to do it, but now even the lower spec NAS are absolutely capable enough to run snapshots. It's block-based. Now, depending on the QNAP you have, it does vary, but we can do up to 65,536 snapshots on a device. So if you were using QUTS Hero, this is true. If you were using QTS, it depends what the maximum is. So it might be 1,000 per volume. It depends on the NAS and the NAS spec. We do have guidelines on the website. If you go Google QNAP snapshots, you'll find a table. But we can support a really massive number of snapshots, which gives you an amazing flexibility for different restore points and things like that within the NAS as well. Automatic firmware updates. So we don't want to use it, you don't have to, but automatic firmware updates, we split it into 3 categories. So we've got security updates, critical updates, and feature updates. So if you want every single critical and security update to happen automatically without your input, you can turn that on. Whereas if it's just a simple feature update, you can wait to do that whenever you're ready. So you can choose to do automatic firmware updates if you wish. Your NAS will check every day for firmware updates. If you'd rather it not do them automatically, you can set it up in the notification center to let you know when the NAS has detected there's a new firmware update, and you can log in whenever suits you to go apply that firmware update as well. So this is really about just making sure that everything's patched up, everything's going to work smoothly, everything's secure. So it's really important to make sure you're on one of the newer firmware updates. And we also are still releasing security updates for NAS that are well over 10 years old. So there was NAS, I've been here about 11 years now, and the different NAS that were on sale or about to go end of life when I joined QNAP, a lot of those are still getting security updates. So we're still able to support NAS well past when we make them end of life. So we're trying to keep them secure. They may not get feature updates, they're just not new enough to work with the newer stuff, but we can still do security patches and security updates where possible on those older units as well. Advanced networking. So within the networking, it's not just simply here's an IP address, let's go work on the network. We've got some really cool features that you can add onto it. So if you've got more than one LAN port, you can do port trunking. Some people may call it link aggregation. We've got 7 different modes to choose from in there, all the way up to IEEE 802.3 AD, which is sort of the industry standard. But it allows you to pick lots of different options for bonding your Ethernet ports together to get more performance, more speed, or more resilience, depends how you want to configure it. We also support VLANs. So you can set up a different VLAN for each port. So if you wanted to integrate it into a VLAN structure, you've got that, and so do our switches as well. So you can apply those. If you've got one of our managed switches, you would be able to apply VLANs on those as well. And one of the sort of biggest game changers we did was add the virtual switch. So this really gives you limitless options. So if you've got multiple LAN ports in your NAS, you can choose what those ports are doing. So they can all be individual. You can join them together as one big switch, one big network switch. You can do routing. You can do really anything that you want. Sharing out internet. There's so many configurations that you can do with the virtual switch. So it's so flexible to be able to change around all the settings and functions of your LAN ports. So it's a really powerful tool, but the virtual switch is in there. A lot of the time we'll set it up automatically for you. So if you turn on our virtualization station application, for example, it will create a virtual switch so that you can use one LAN port for your NAS functions as well as the same LAN port for your virtual machine. If you wanted to, you can just segment off your virtual machine on its own LAN port as well. Very powerful function, that virtual switch feature. We've also got a lot of monitoring and logging tools. So built into the NAS, we have our QLog center, which stores a certain amount of logs within the NAS itself. So it's really good for diagnosing any issues you may be having. Really good to go look there if you wanted to go and track, say, what users are accessing at a certain time of the day. You can turn on some extra logging from the default if you want to. And we've also got our free Amiz Cloud function, which is a cloud managed central management. Anybody would have used the old tool. It was called QCenter, but that was hosted within your NAS itself. Amiz Cloud is hosted in the cloud, as is in the name there, and it stores historical data about the NAS. And the statistics it gathers are amazing. So if you wanted to look at your NAS sort of data usage over time, performance history, what's your CPU doing over the last 3 months, things like that. It keeps all that information, always submitting it up to the Amiz Cloud so that you can go and look, and it gives you some really nice graphs and tables to go look at to see what your NAS has been doing over the past certain period that you can choose. You can filter it down, create custom reports. Really nice function if you wanted to do that. You can turn on Amiz Cloud in the My QNAP Cloud application if you wanted to use it. We've got iSCSI support. It's now available in every single NAS we do. If you were to use it in virtualization applications, it does support clustered access. So if you've got a virtual machine cluster, so lots of different virtual hosts all working together, you can mount the iSCSI volume to all of your hosts at once. Great for things like failover and stuff like that. If you're using VMware and the VMFS file system, for example, it can be read and written to from multiple places at the same time. So it's really good having clustered access support there within the iSCSI functionality on the NAS. Okay, so we're up to feature 18, which is the SSD caching and tiering. This can really improve performance on your NAS. So SSD caching is really a real-time, fast interacting monitoring of your NAS. So any data that's coming and going, depending whether you set it up as a read-only cache or a read-write cache, it can really help with the data. So if you're using it in a mixed load with hard drives and SSDs in the same NAS, the bits that hard drives are no good at, the sort of smaller stuff, it's going to go to the SSDs. If it's larger stuff like a big stream of backup data, it can go straight to the hard drive, so you can customize it and control it. And we also support QTS. So on our QTS operating system, we have tiering, so automatic data tiering, where you can have up to 3 different tiers. So you could have SATA hard drives as the sort of archive layer at the bottom. You could have, say, SATA SSDs as the mid-range tier, and the ultra-fast tier can be NVMe SSDs at the top. And you can have all these different tiers working in unison. It's monitoring your data, deciding what data needs to be promoted up and demoted down. So it's really good at doing it. And you can also use SSD caching on top of QTier. So if you wanted to add some sort of real-time acceleration as well, you can do that as well. And the drive bays you can use for the SSDs for these functions, anything you want. So if you want to use them in the main drive bays, that's fine. We can put 2.5-inch SATA drives in our 3.5-inch bays. Anybody that's bought a QNAP before will know you get 2 bags of screws in the box usually, a silver larger set for hard drives, a smaller black set for SSDs, and each of your drive trays will have some 2.5-inch screw holes marked on it, so that if you are using 2.5-inch drives, those are the screw holes you should be using. A lot of the NAS do now have M.2 slots on board as well, so that you can use those, as well as QM2 cards. We do PCIe cards that allow you to add 2 or 4 M.2 SSDs through the rear of the NAS. Some of them even have 10 gig options on them as well. So you can have 10 gig as well as 2 M.2s added in the space of 1 PCIe slot if you wanted to. We've got a lot of options with our QM2 cards that you can go take a look at. So moving on to surveillance, we've got two solutions here. We've got QVR Pro and QVR Elite. So depends on the sort of scenario you're using it as to which one you'll go with. Typically QVR Elite supports more cameras at the top end. QVR Pro licensing might suit other people's needs a bit better, but we do have support for over 800 different cameras from 200 different brands, and even if that's not enough and the camera you want to use is not on our list, we do support ONVIF. So a lot of the cameras do support ONVIF, sort of the open standard for IP cameras. So we support, I think, Profile T, Profile S, so you can choose different options there. So even if it's not on the list, it doesn't mean it won't work with the camera you're using. And we've also got dedicated QVP devices. These are effectively NAS that aren't running the NAS operating systems. They're only running surveillance as their main operating system, so they are dedicated just to the surveillance task. They don't do network shares or app installations. They are just for surveillance. So if you're looking for a dedicated MVR solution, we do have our QVP devices in varying different sizes as well. Now, moving on to the 20th feature, the last one I'll talk about today. This is data deduplication and compression. So as part of our QUTS Hero operating system that uses the ZFS file system, you can do inline deduplication, compression. It even has inline compaction, massively improved storage performance, and it's all block-based. I can't tell you exactly how successful it will be on your data. It depends on your data, but it's a really good feature for anybody that needs to save some space. So the reality here is you may, on your current storage solution, need 100 terabytes of physical space. But if a lot of it was duplicated, we might be able to get that down to just needing 50 terabytes of physical space. So it's a really intelligent way of being more efficient with your storage. So it's really a really powerful solution, and that comes with every NAS that can run QUTS Hero only. So you do need a certain amount of RAM to turn these on. So I would say you need probably 32 gig minimum. Depends on the amount of data. We have guidelines on the website, but compression is turned on by default for most, but deduplication can be turned on with just a toggle switch in QUTS Hero if you wanted to use that as well. Okay, so thank you very much for your support and trust over the years. Thanks for celebrating our 20 years of QNAP with us. If anybody has any questions on anything I've talked about today, let us know in the comments section down below. And here's to the next 20. Thanks a lot. Bye.